No, I'm still going tonight. Look, I'm going to have to go, OK, because I'm running a bit late. All right, I'll speak to you later. Bye.
Rachel Breward was running 10 minutes late for her shift as assistant manager at Nando's in Freeman's Park, Leicester.
Well, when arriving in the car park that morning, I saw a gentleman with a red hood walking past me, and he nodded his head down as though he didn't want me to see his face, and I just drove round the corner, parked my car up. The assistant manager usually gets there for 9:30 and then waits for the staff to come in, which they come in at 11 o'clock. I've been for the job for 5 months now, really enjoy it. The staff are really great, customers are, good, to have a chit-chat with and everything. So far everything was going okay. I normally open up on a Sunday, go in, open all the locks up, go over to the alarm, unset the alarm, go over to the office, put the delivery away and then wait for the staff to come.
Get back!
What do you want?
Back in office!
What do you want?
Open safe!
What do you want?
Open safe! I'll give you 3!
What do you mean?
1, 2...
I can't!
Open!
No, I can't. I don't know the code, please! I'm not a manager!
Open now!
And I thought, oh my God, this is happening to me. He was pretending he had a gun in his hand and I'm going to die today. That's all I thought to myself. My first reactions was to try and delay him, so I could hit the panic alarm.
Rachel did trigger the alarm, but amazingly, the monitoring company failed to call the police. They simply rang another assistant manager.
Well, I'll make my way there now.
On the floor!
Oh, please get off!
Get on the floor! Give me your hands.
Please don't hurt me!
Give me your hands.
Please don't hurt me, I'm pregnant!
To stop him from hurting me, I pretended I was pregnant, but he said, I don't care, it's not my baby, and just kept on going how he was.
Please let me go!
The pain was just like a great big blow, like my head had just exploded, and I can just remember blood just trickling down and into my mouth.
I'm trying!
Open.
I'm doing it.
Open! Is this Nando money?
Yes!
Good.
And I thought as soon as he had the money he was going to run, and I told him, I said, just go, take the money and go.
In your face!
But he didn't. He dragged me into the toilet, and as he did that, he closed the office door behind him, in which, he'd locked himself out, and the keys were inside the office, so he couldn't get back into his money.
Key!
They're inside.
Key! Where?
They're inside the office.
Where? Key!
You have to kick the door down.
Where? Key!
Kick the door.
Key!
Kick the door down. Take me to the till.
Key! Where? Where the key?
There's a spare
Give
key.
it! Give it me!
No, I couldn't get any answer. Yeah, I'm on my way now. I'll call you when I get there.
Where?
It should be there.
Where?
I don't know. It should be there.
Where is? Where?
It should be here. I don't know where it is. Oh,
Where is key? Where?
it should be there. There should be a spare key on the table.
Go back.
Yes, Nando's restaurant, Freeman's Park, Nando's. I don't know, I didn't see.
I remember seeing like a plaster that he had over his nose, like he'd broken it.
You're going to die today! Or I will kill you!
When he started kicking me, I don't think I had any emotion. I think I was just ready for him to take my life, to be honest. All I could think of was just, if you're going to do it, just get it over and done with.
CCTV shows the attacker sprinting down Aylstone Road, 10 a.m. Sunday morning 5 weeks ago, running fast in bright red and with a plaster on his nose. Do you remember him? Rachel had a fractured skull, bruising all over her body and needed stitches to her face.
And when your daughter tells you that this attacker has told her this will be the last day of her life, then that hurts a bit.
I just frightened of other people now. It's, you know, if I don't know them, I'm thinking, are you the person who attacked me?
Don't move, don't move. Just stay still.
DI Jeff Brooks is in charge of the investigation. Jeff, we've minimised the violence a lot in that, but it was not only incredibly violent, it was incredibly incompetent as well.
It certainly was. It was very violent. The CCTV shows how violent it was. But to lock the money away, which he's already stolen, was so foolish.
So after this he got away with nothing, didn't he? After
Nothing.
all that and putting Rachel through all that. The thing she pointed out when she managed to get his balaclava back was that plaster, or what looked like a plaster anyway, on his nose. What do you think that's all about?
Well, it could be caused as a result of an injury, an old injury waiting to actually heal up, or was it there to actually disguise something on his nose? We just don't know, but it's clearly some form of plaster that she saw.
I mean, it's just about possible, I suppose, it could have been a double bluff. I mean, there's a tiny chance it could have been that.
It is tiny,
So
but
we
it
shouldn't
is
discount
possible, yes.
And what else was she able to tell you about him?
Well, she described him about 5'7" tall. She said that he was olive-skinned, maybe Eastern European looking. And as she pulled his balaclava off, she thought she saw some dark hair, but she's not sure.
She can't be sure.
No.
And one odd thing, he said, oh, is this Nando's money, as he was taking the money, and he seemed pleased about the fact that it was. And can you read anything into that?
We don't know. It's unusual to actually say something like that. There are a lot of retail outlets in that area. It would show that he was at the premises he wanted to be there to steal from, but why, we don't know that yet.
And they've put up a reward as well, haven't they?
They have. Nando's have put up £10,000, leading to the arrest and conviction of this man.
Right, OK. Well, there's just one other thing. Just before Rachel arrived to open up the restaurant, a dark saloon car drove around the car park. Was it the attacker, or was the driver entirely innocent? Sunday, 5 weeks ago, in Freeman's Park. If you were in that car, or indeed any other in the car park that morning, call. There's a lot to go on. Short, foreign, medium build, very violent, with a nose injury. Remember that plaster about 5 weeks ago, and in the Leicester area, and the £10,000 reward. Help catch him. 0500 600 600 if you can help. Or the Instant Room in Leicester on 0116 248 3773.
Still to come on Crimewatch, the Midlands teenager who did something so terrible, even he broke down in tears.
I can't believe it. I'm sorry.
A 10-year, one-man crime spree right across the Midlands. We've got his face, though. Give us his name. This month's Dodgy Dozen helped find 12 people wanted for fraud.
And who killed Eileen Evans with one of these and just drove on? First, here's DC Jackie Hames and DC Rav Wilding.
We've 6 faces to show you. One's escaped from prison, one's violent and dangerous, and another fancies himself as a jewellery salesman. First up, Stephen Ford was charged with threats to kill and GBH after a pizza restaurant in Sheffield refused to serve him. The manager had a knife held to his throat and was punched so hard he lost several teeth. Stephen Ford is 36, 6 feet tall and balding. We know he's travelled to Spain in the past, but it's believed he's now back in the UK. His last known address was in the village of Misterton near Doncaster.
In November, Byron Parsons escaped when he was taken from Sudbury Prison for a hospital appointment. He'd served only 4 years of a life sentence for a series of armed robberies. Byron Parsons is 35, he's 5'10" and has a Midlands accent. He has tattoos of the initials CBP and PJP on his left arm. He's known to have connections in Coventry and Warwickshire.
Mohammed Rasulzai was charged with causing death by dangerous driving in central Manchester, but failed to appear at court. In the past, he's been a pizza delivery driver in South Manchester and may be doing similar work elsewhere. Mohammed Rasulzai has several tattoos, a dagger on his left wrist and a moon and star on his hand.
We want Peter Kerrigan in a connection of a series of burglaries across Sussex, Kent, Hampshire, Essex and London. The victims of the burglaries are elderly and extremely vulnerable. Peter Kerrigan is 17 and thin with greasy hair. He's believed to be in the Hackney or Islington areas of London.
Derek Denton is charged with a number of drugs and firearms offences but failed to appear at Northampton Court last July. We believe Derek Denton is not his real name and that he uses aliases. He's also known by street names Dove and Rocky. He's 38, has a Jamaican accent and links to the Wellingborough and Seaton areas of Nottingham.
Yuri Harris is charged with conspiracy to steal from passengers at Heathrow Airport between 2002 and 2004. He travels all over the world, often going to jewellery fairs and posing as a salesman from a fictional company in Hatton Garden. Yuri Harris is 5'7", he's stocky and has a London accent. He often wears a baseball cap and sunglasses.
0500 600 600 if you can help with any of these cases.
Who'd commit a terrible offence and then ring Crimewatch and admit to it? Well, we hope someone's about to do just that. He's local to Wednesbury in the West Midlands. He's aged 17, 18, maybe 19, something like that. And on Boxing Day, he did something so terrible that even he broke down and wept.
What's wrong? Her hair was a mess. There was mud all over her clothes. Her only had one shoe on. I was crying her eyes out. My head just went blurred, to be honest. I just seen red. I wanted to kill him.
I was out with my two friends and then we went to the Legion pub. From there, my friend went down to the Lamp, so I carried on walking home alone. I started hearing footsteps, so usually you do feel a bit awkward, but I just thought, no, it's probably just someone casually walking home like everyone else on Boxing Day.
Stop screaming or I'll stab you! I mean, I'll kill you! I'll do it! Is that what you want?
I sincerely thought that he was going to kill me.
Come on! I mean, you're going to have a nice time! Come on!
I had no control over what was happening and no one was there to help me and it was horrible.
So is this park safe, do you reckon? No. Obviously not. How old are you?
17!
17. You're going to do what I tell you? You're going to have a nice time, eh? You and me?
And he just walked me all the way across Springett Park and into the graveyard, right at the other end of the graveyard.
Don't look at me.
When he was raping me, he just pushed my head down, so I never got to see his face at all.
What have I done? What have I done? I can't believe I've done it. I'm sorry. What have I done?
He just kept saying, I'm really sorry, and just repeating, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm really sorry. I don't know what I'm doing.
I couldn't find one of my shoes, so I just left it and ran off. And I just took my other shoe off and ran. I couldn't even feel the cold on my feet because I was just running straight and I just wanted to find someone.
By chance, her brother was getting petrol from a nearby garage.
What's wrong? For someone to do that, to someone that age and that sort of, it's disgusting.
I think my brother's been really upset, even though he don't show it. But I know he's been really upset about it. But I've been the worst. I feel like I can't even go out my house on my own. Because you see all groups of lads standing outside in the area and you just it could be one of them and I wouldn't even know. And it's he's just stopped my life completely.
Well, of course, we've disguised the victim's identity, but as she said, she can't really go out now until she knows who did this to her. Now, I don't know if the man really was remorseful, but if he is, call in now. We've got your full DNA profile, so it's only a matter of time, and you know you need help. Call us before the police call on you. On the other hand, if you've got any ideas who did this, perhaps someone you know in Wednesbury who came home covered in mud on Boxing Night, 0500 600 600. The officers behind me here are waiting for your call on this one. They've got colleagues who are waiting in the incident room in Wednesbury on 0121 626 9193. And if you yourself have been the victim of a crime, would like to talk to someone rather than the police, call Victim Support Line on 0845 30 30 900.
This is a photo of 65-year-old Eileen Evans, a mother of 4 with 5 grandchildren and 5 great-grandchildren. But Eileen won't see any of them again. A lorry driver saw to that. She was killed last summer by a truck like this in a hit and run, and her family are still desperate to find out who did it. Eileen was crossing a Newtown lane near to the High Street in Cradley Heath in the West Midlands. The traffic lights were red, but as she walked in front of a vehicle like this, the lights changed and the lorry moved forward. The driver must have known that he'd hit Eileen. He ran right over her, first with the front wheels and then the rear. The lorry is a box type with a white cab. And we're not sure of the colour of the sides, but the rear access shutter type door was blue or green. These are 2 of Eileen's daughters, Eileen and Dawn. Eileen, how are the family coping without your mum?
Well, we're just in a hole. We're devastated. We'll never get over the loss of mum. We know that the person who was driving the van, that his neighbours know him, his family know him, his friends know him. How they can live with the guilt and the conscience of that is unbelievable. Because not only did he kill my mum, well, he murdered my mum. He left my mum in the gutter for dead. Now, you wouldn't do that to an animal. Now, to do that, you know, he must be really heartless. And as I say, his family and his friends and his neighbours must know this van. Then they must be able to put the face to that van.
What about your dad? I mean, Dawn, I know you're looking after your dad, and they were coming up to their 50th wedding anniversary, weren't they?
Yeah, it'll be the 49th wedding anniversary on Thursday, and my dad is totally devastated. Totally, he's lost his life. Lost his life.
Well, I had to see Dad this morning myself. And he sat there and he said to me, well, it's not going to be long now and I'll be going. And it's as though now he's willing it to happen.
I went down there this morning unexpected and he was crying and he told me, he says, you know, it had been our 49th wedding anniversary on Thursday. And I mean, what can you say? What can you say to him?
And Mum's birthday's coming up, the 9th of April. I mean, not only have we lost our mum, my uncles and aunties have lost their sister. Nephews and nieces have lost their auntie. The grandchildren have lost their nan and great-nan. The loss that this man has caused us is unbelievable.
I mean, what would you say to someone who's listening now, either the person who was driving that lorry, who must have known what he'd done, or, as you say, people who might know what he's done and haven't come forward yet? What difference would it make to you, to your dad?
Well, it wouldn't stop the pain and it wouldn't stop the heartache. We'll always be devastated by Mum's death.
But it helped lay her to
But
rest.
it'll help lay Mum to rest.
Yeah.
Also, a witness rang in with crucial information, and we plead with this person to ring back in. He doesn't have to leave his name, anything, just the information that we need. Anybody who's got any information, please ring in. If you've got an heart and a conscience, then that will make you ring in.
For Eileen and Dawn, thank you both very much. And as Eileen was saying, an anonymous caller did contact the police with information, leading them to believe that he's a friend of this lorry driver. Now, they and, of course, Eileen and Dawn urgently want him to make contact again. Or if you're the driver and you've had this on your conscience for the last 8 months, please call so you can bring some resolution for Eileen, for Dawn and for Eileen's whole family. 0500 600 600 or the instant room in Smethwick on 0845 113 5000. And now here again is DC Jackie Haynes.
I've got 12 people who've been getting their hands on other people's money. They're all wanted for fraud. Let's start with the first 4. We'd like to talk to Paul Baker in connection with deception offences worth over £150,000. His wife Janet is wanted for the same thing. Now, the pair of them like to be called Lord and Lady Baker, and they own a security firm called Red 21 Covert Operations. They have family connections in the Luton area of Bedfordshire, but Paul and Janet may have moved away. And can you identify this woman? She used a cloned credit card and fake passport to try and withdraw cash from the Lloyds TSB in Evesham, Worcestershire. This photo's taken from that passport, which vigilant bank staff held back after they got suspicious. And do you know who this is? His portrait comes courtesy of CCTV from the Royal Bank of Scotland in York. He tried to withdraw a large amount of cash there with a stolen bank card. So give us his name. And James Dougal. He failed to appear in court on deception charges. He also uses other names such as Thomas Ferguson and Gerald Waterhouse. James Dougal speaks with a Yorkshire accent and has a scar on his right leg. So those are the first four, and I'll be back later in the programme with the next lot.
Meantime, a 10-year one-man crime spree that spread right across the Midlands. But our reconstruction has a particularly good clue. We've got his picture.
Back in 1995, a man walked into the Loughborough Building Society on Babington Lane. He had what appeared to be a gun and demanded cash. He's been doing robberies just like that ever since.
I know that this person has robbed over 20 premises. I also know that despite the fact that he's not getting a large amount of cash, the number of offences have increased. The method of offending is always the same. He'll stand in the street, wait until the customers leave, then he will pick his moment to go inside.
Bye-bye, see you again. Bye.
Give me your money.
What?
Don't mess me about. I've got a gun here. Give me all your money.
How much money?
Give me everything you've got now. Give me everything.
Look, this is it. This is all we've got. That's it.
Is this everything?
We don't have any more money.
Is that it?
He's a black man, aged between 30 and 40, 5'9" to 5'10" in height, quite stocky build, has a mole or a birthmark on his right cheek, and also wears a greyish-blue train driver's cap on the offences. I do know a fair bit about this robber. What I've also been able to do is track his movements on CCTV cameras from the banks and building societies that he's attacked through busy shopping centre areas. What I haven't been able to do is track his movements thereafter.
The spread of the attacks meant information had to be gathered from 11 different forces, ranging from Derbyshire to Thames Valley. And to sort out the data, they've brought in a crime analyst.
I was brought on board as the intelligence analyst to prepare what we call a CCA, or a comparative case analysis. It's a spreadsheet which we compile, which shows the key features of each offence. Because we only have CCTV images for some of the offences, I have to find other evidence that suggests that the offences are all being carried out by the same person. So that means I look at the description of the offender given by the witnesses, I look at the language that's used, any objects that person is carrying, and the method that that person used when entering and leaving the premises.
And also the first goal scorer betting.
We can see that while he did start off by targeting building societies and banks, he has now moved on to bookmakers, although his methods of entry, the language that he's using and his description, particularly down to his clothing, is still the same.
Hello, can I help you?
Give me the money.
What?
Give me the money. Don't mess around. I've got a gun here.
That's all we've got.
Is this it?
That's it.
Everything?
Everything.
Well, we know there have been over 20 offences in total. Some of those are historic and some are within the current series. We don't believe there were any offences committed between June 2000 and September of 2004. So as well as finding out who this person is, we need to find out where he was at that time.
So come on, let's put an end to this long series of offences. 0500 600 600 here in the studio, or you can call the Instant Room, that's in Redditch, on 01527 583 799.
Now, a story that made news around the world, a gruesome crime, little heard of since Victorian times, body snatching. Last October, the body of Gladys Hammond was stolen from St Peter's Church at Yoxall near Burton-on-Trent. The theft has been linked to animal rights extremists. Mrs Hammond's son-in-law runs a guinea pig farm which supplies animals for medical research. DCI Nick Baker is leading the inquiry. Nick, just remind us what the background to this particular crime.
Yeah, it's a campaign that's been going on since 1999, focused on the farm that obviously gets the guinea pigs to the biotech industry. It's involved, obviously, I suppose, legitimate process, but at the extreme end, quite numerous acts of criminality.
So basically there is this campaign against the company Huntington Life Sciences, which we've all heard of in the news, and anyone who's associated, however peripherally, with that is being targeted by, as you say, extremists.
It's the remotest of connections to the business, and they are subject to acts of criminality and targeting by the campaign, and this we would say that Gladys is just part of that ongoing protest.
And this is a terrible crime we're talking about. It's grave robbing we're talking about
it's
here.
Awful.
You've got new information tonight. Tell us about it.
Yes, we've received some letters recently which, in style and content, are similar to previous letters we'd received from animal rights extremists. However, what's extremely interesting about these letters is that the author seems to have an intimate knowledge of the crime, also claims to know the whereabouts of Gladys's body, but perhaps most importantly is showing a willingness to return Gladys to her family. So my appeal tonight is to the author or authors of those letters. Please contact us tonight. Let's discuss the contents of what you've put down in those letters. We do have a code word within the context of the letter, and obviously we'll know who the genuine callers are.
So if they're sitting at home watching this, I don't know, and they hear you talking, there's a particular code word that they can ring in with tonight.
We will be able to know who the authentic callers are.
OK, so anyone else who rings in, only the genuine people want to ring in, nobody else?
Yeah, don't waste the time, it's just those authors of those specific letters we won't call in tonight.
OK, well, most people who campaign for animals are revolted by this sort of behaviour and are keen to distance themselves from it. So please, don't call us to point that out. We know that. What we need tonight is to find out who did this. If you've any information which could lead to the return of Mrs Hammond's body, or you've knowledge of who did this, remember, it's free to call the studio, 0500 600 600, or you can ring the Yoxall Incident Room on 01785 218 620. And you can also ring Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111. And now here are Jackie and Rav with the latest on tonight's call so far.
Well, we've certainly been kept incredibly busy tonight. I've taken particular interest in the calls on the Nando's attack in Leicester on the 6th of February this year. We've had an enormous number of calls on this, and thank you so much. 5 names have been suggested so far, one by an off-duty police officer, so we're obviously being followed up that. But as a detective, you really need a whole wide range of information, and we particularly wanted to find the owner of the car that drove into the car park just as Rachel was getting there, about a minute or so before. Now, that could have been an innocent bystander, or it could have been someone connected with the assailant. So if you know, somebody thinks it may have been a VW Vento, please keep calling in on this case. Rav, how have you been getting on?
Well, you're right, it's been a very, very busy night. I've been paying particular attention with that horrific rape that we saw just a few minutes ago. The calls are coming in, and we do have some encouraging leads. But I'm still urging for anyone with any information at all to pick up that phone and give us a call. Even better would be for the attacker to stand up for what he's done and give us a call himself. We've also had some encouraging leads coming through on the Eileen's Evan hit and run that you saw again just a few minutes ago. But what we really need is for that anonymous caller that called before, for him to call. Better still, of course, would be for the driver himself. Nick, how you getting on?
Coming at 9:30, still to come in the next few minutes, the mother turned bag lady, her tragic life and cruel death. And who killed John Ryan so close to home?
Fancy yourself in one of these? Someone did, but neglected to pay for it.
Detectives are still pursuing quite a lot of leads from our appeals last month, but 2 of them at least have got to the stage where there's things that we can really tell you. First, the mobile phone heist in Coventry, you might remember it. 2 lorries were stolen back in January, one of which was carrying nearly £750,000 worth of mobiles.
They're quite distinctive, white ceramic Sony Ericsson V800s and 5000s. They've only recently gone on the market. If you are using one of these stolen phones, they can be traced when activated.
As a direct result of Crimewatch, 2 people have been arrested and a number of the phones have been recovered, and I think quite a few more of those phones are going to come to the surface quite soon.
Mark Dunkley was wanted in connection with the supply of heroin and crack cocaine in Cannock, Staffordshire. We can't show his picture tonight, but Mark Dunkley heard he was on Crimewatch. He handed himself in. He's now awaiting trial. Here's DC Rav Wilding again.
I've got more villains caught on camera. Tell us where we can lay our hands on them tonight. First, attempted armed robbery at a co-op in Crowthorne, Berkshire. The shop assistant sees two men acting suspiciously. He's threatened by one of them who's holding a knife. The assistant calls for help and the men run away. As they escape, one of them pulls off his balaclava. Who is he? Now, on to Watford in Hertfordshire and assault on a bus. Can you help identify any of these youths? They started an unprovoked attack on a group of others on the top deck of the bus. During the assault, mobile phones and jewellery were stolen. Do you recognise any of them? And staying on public transport, an attack on a train travelling from Clapham Junction, South London. During the journey, a passenger moved a woman's bag from the seat so as to sit down. She took exception to this and threatened him. She also made a call on her mobile phone. Shortly afterwards, a man gets on the train brandishing a piece of wood with nails in it. The woman directs him to the passenger and his friends, who he then attacks. Can you name the man and the woman? Finally, armed robbery at a garage in Wolverhampton. Two men go into the garage. While one keeps a lookout, the other threatens a member of staff with a handgun. The other man then also grabs a customer and threatens him, holding a gun to his head. They escape with £1,000 and the staff and customers' mobile phones. Tell us who they are. Don't let them get away with it. 0500 600 600 if you can help with any of these cases.
Last September, we appealed for information about a hit and run, but it wasn't an accident. It's being treated as attempted murder. 18-year-old Kate Sheedy was run over as she walked home in Isleworth in Middlesex. It was Thursday, the 27th of May, and it's extraordinary that she survived.
It was deliberate. I'm sure the car that drove towards me deliberately, because it could have gone straight on, but instead it veered to the left. The car then hit me, it drove over me, then reversed back over me, and then just drove off.
It reversed back, deliberately drove back?
It deliberately drove.
Over you?
Yes.
Over what part of your body?
My upper body, my torso.
Despite the injuries, Kate had remarkable recall, was able to give a description of the car. It was a white people carrier with blacked-out windows and black wing mirrors. Now, police have now got CCTV footage from the County Arms pub, which is very close to where Kate got off the bus in Isleworth. It shows a white Toyota Previa following the bus, waiting behind it, and then about a minute later, returning in the opposite direction at high speed. Detectives have since then found a white Previa, registration number K855EFL, and they want to know more about it. It's really important. Did you own that car? Did you have access to the car last year? We don't mind whether it was taxed, insured, whatever. If you know anything about it, please let us know. And they're also appealing for any further witnesses to come forward. If you actually saw what happened that day, or if you were a passenger in that vehicle which hit Kate, that's a possibility. Again, you've not committed any offence. Please come forward. You would be treated as a witness. Kate suffered extensive injuries. As I say, she could very easily have been killed. She very nearly was. If you can help, 0500 600 600, or you can call the Incident Room in Putney in London, 020 8247 7911.
Now, for more of our wanted dozen, all of them sought in connection with fraud. We're looking for this man over a series of deceptions at banks across West Yorkshire. His photo's taken from a forged passport which Barclays staff confiscated when they got suspicious. Tell us his name. Jason Richards is wanted regarding bank cards which were stolen from conference centres in South Wales and used to withdraw cash from banks in Cardiff. Jason Richards has tattoos of reptile skulls on both arms and may be living in the West Midlands. And do you know who these two are? They went to a branch of Lloyds TSB in Stockport, Greater Manchester. They used cloned credit cards and forged driving licences and were trying to steal money from customers' accounts. Tell us their names. 0500 600 600 if you recognise any of these people. And I'll be back with the last four shortly.
Life can deal an unpredictable hand. Untreated mental illness is one of the cruelest.
Jennifer was a quiet lady. She presented as really being quite shy, certainly very reticent and not at all willing to be sharing with us her past or where she'd been. She used to say she was just passing through, and she seemed to be quite happy with that. Most of the time she came dressed in the same things. She had a longish grey coat that she wore. She used to have several bags in a buggy, which she brought with her, so I presumed that was the rest of her clothes. From the time she first came to us in December, she came almost always 5 days a week. On the Friday, Jennifer came in as usual for her sandwich, and she was quite happy.
Hello, Jenny. How's it going today?
All right.
Would you like a cup of tea?
Yeah. Actually, she was laughing and joking more that day than I think any day that she'd come, which I felt was nice because I thought maybe I was starting to make a breakthrough.
Jenny hadn't always lived like this. 6 years ago, she'd been with her family in London.
Jennifer was a lovely, bubbly character. I met her on my travels as a young lad, and I decided to choose her as my companion to set up home with and have children with. We had children very young, so you know, life was a bit of a challenge. There was ups and downs, but overall it was a pretty good relationship. I was happy. She appeared to be happy. After the third child, she started to get sick. The upshot of her illness meant that the relationship broke down, and she left the family home. Many years passed, and we hadn't heard from her, and I was obviously very worried. I did try to make contact through social services, but wasn't able to.
Jenny almost certainly had mental health problems, but wanted to deal with it in her own way. She took to drifting for hours or days on end around Canterbury and Brighton, finishing up here in Eastbourne.
Well, we know Jennifer used to like to wander the streets of Eastbourne, particularly at night, and she would literally walk miles. And we're appealing for anyone who may have seen Jennifer walking along the seafront that night.
It was a Friday night almost 2 months ago when Jenny was killed.
Oh, you! Yeah, I'm talking to you!
But we don't know which of several incidents are relevant. First, soon after 6 p.m, a ginger-haired man was seen shouting at someone matching Jenny's description.
Where the hell do you think you're going? Come here!
But Jenny was fine and well. At 10 p.m, she showed up at a friend's house to have a bath.
How you doing? You all right? I'm done.
And afterwards, as she often did, she went to wander on the seafront.
Hello, Jenny.
That witness on Upper Promenade was the last we know who saw Jennifer alive. But there were many others out that night. About an hour later, a cyclist went in the same direction, west, towards Holywell. Who was he? Sometime after, 2 men of Mediterranean appearance followed. And 2 hours later still, behind the Grand Hotel, which is near Holywell, there was another sighting.
I finished work at 3:15 a.m. I noticed a character walking down the middle of the road.
Excuse me, do you know where is train?
Train?
Yeah, train.
A train station?
Train station, yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
If you go down here, it's 4th on your left.
Thanks.
He had the appearance of Eastern European, medium build, blue jacket zipped up to the neck, with blonde hair.
All these men are potential witnesses who have to be eliminated from the murder inquiry that was triggered 2 hours later by council workers on patrol.
Well, I'm a street supervisor at weekends. Well, there's 2 of us, actually. We keep an eye on about 20 people sweeping the town, sweeping the seafront and checking all the shelters out all the way up to the foot of Beachy Head.
I want to check those new boys in Hampton Park.
I was coming along the bottom prom here, going up towards Holywell, noticed the smoke coming out of the shelter. I put the headlights into the shelter, noticed a bulky shape there, got out and had a look at it and noticed what I first of all thought was a tailor's dummy that they'd set light to. But on closer inspection, it was a human body.
Call the police.
Jennifer was found in the shelter behind me. She had been brutally murdered, stabbed a number of times, And then I believe all her possessions were piled on top of her, including the buggy, and she was set alight.
The fact that she had become unwell, which made it difficult for her to bond with her family or contact her family, it could have happened to anyone. She was a loving, caring mum with a family that miss her dearly.
DCI Tony O'Donnell is leading the investigation. Tony, it's a really sad case, isn't it? There she was, with 3 children and her husband, and then within what, seemingly a year, she just left and fell off the radar, really.
Yes, it's desperately sad.
It is. I mean, there's a whole heap of witnesses, potential witnesses, that we've identified in that reconstruction. There's a bit more information about one of them. The man who was walking down Silverdale Road at, 3:15 in the morning.
Yes, that's right.
There's a bit more about him, isn't there?
Yes, he's come from the general area of the scene, and he's walking down the road. He's kind of vacant looking. He's in the middle of the road, and just before he approaches that man, a car actually has to slow down and go round him before he goes and talks to the man at the Grand Hotel. If you were the driver of that car, I'd like you to come forward.
And someone just walking along the middle of the road there.
Absolutely.
And what about, we saw the guy sleeping rough there who knew Jenny, and he talked about 2 Mediterranean-type-looking men who walked past him, but there were 2 girls, weren't there, as well, that night?
Yes, almost immediately after the 2 Mediterranean men walked past, there was 2 young ladies walking behind them, not with them. They were talking in English, but they had foreign accents, and we've yet to identify those people.
There was also another man who was running by the murder site as well in the small hours.
Yes, we're not exactly sure the time. It could be 3 o'clock, possibly 4 o'clock. He's seen to run across the lawns and dropping down the embankment immediately on top of the murder site itself. He's described from a distance, dark clothing, wearing a bobble hat. We don't know who this person is. It may be innocent or he may be connected.
There's also a black suitcase, isn't there, near, just to get the geography right, at a bus stop, which was just up from the murder site.
Yes, it's yet another piece. The morning of the murder, we searched the area, and on the seafront road, the main road above the murder scene, there's a bus stop, and in the bus stop we found a black case. There's scarves, items of clothing, balaclava. It appears to be maybe a rough sleeper's kit. Nobody's come forward, nobody's claimed that, nobody said, oh, you've got our kit, and we can't identify the owner of that. That also ties in with another sighting. That's about 1:30 in the morning of Jennifer's death. 2 people, they saw a man not far from the bus stop walking up and down the road. He's extremely excited, he's agitated, waving his hands in the air, talking to himself or possibly talking on a mobile phone. Once again, we haven't been able to identify this man, and we want him to come forward.
I mean, really, I think there are so many potential witnesses. It was, after all, Friday night, Saturday morning. A lot of people out and about. Just remind us when it was?
Yes, it was Friday night, Saturday morning on the 21st, 22nd of January this year.
And really, anyone who was out and about in that area through the night, through the small hours of the morning, you want them to contact you?
Absolutely. Lots of people are around, people clubbing, etc. They may have been on the seafront. They may not think they've seen anything that's significant, but if they were there and they haven't spoken to us yet, I would urge them to come forward.
OK, well, please don't let Jennifer's killer get away with it. 3 children have lost their mother. Call 0500 600 600 or the incident room in Eastbourne on 0845 60 70 999. Now here's Jackie and Rav.
And we've got some pictures and videos to show you. 76-year-old Gwendolyn Knitter was in St Andrews Road in Croydon when a man grabbed her handbag. After a struggle, she fell over and he ran off. She died 6 weeks later. We've an e-fit of a man who was seen walking behind Gwen. This was on Saturday, the 4th of December. He's described as possibly black or Asian, but light-skinned, 5'8" and of medium build. Now, we're anxious for this man to come forward to be eliminated from the inquiry. 10 minutes after the attack, this man was caught on CCTV using Gwen's credit cards at East Croydon. He's wearing a jacket like this, a hooded sweatshirt type thing, with the number 87 on the back, like this. Now, 3 days later, another elderly woman was robbed in the same area. 5 minutes before the attack, a man was seen in the Spa shop in Brighton Road, Croydon, wearing a similar jacket to this. So is this the same person? Finally, we also want to trace a potential eyewitness to Gwen's attack, a man who was sitting in an old-style BMW St Andrews Road at the time of the robbery. So if that was you, please do come forward.
On Thursday the 9th of December, a security van arrived at the Lee Valley Riding Centre in Leighton, East London. It was followed by what was described as a dark Volkswagen. Minutes later, the security van was robbed and the offenders drove away in the VW. Shortly afterwards, the fire brigade were called to a dark blue VW Golf, registration RE03AOP, which was on fire in Argyle Way, only a quarter of a mile from the stables. 2 white men were seen running away in the direction of the Asian Sports Club. If you saw these men, please get in touch. Earlier, a similar car was caught on the CCTV in the car park of the Lee Valley Ice Rink, which was also visited by the security van. The Golf followed the van as it left the car park. Do you remember seeing it? The Golf was stolen, along with a VW Silver Passat, registration number RO03KXR, from a house in Ealing, which is West London. That was on the 24th of November. Do you know where either of these vehicles were between that date and the 9th of December? 0500 600 600, if you can help.
There were 2 series of burglaries on elderly people in the Shoreham and Lancing areas of Sussex in December and January. 12 offences have all been linked, taking place between 6 and 9 p.m. The offenders either break in or distract the occupants by saying they've won a prize of some sort and then gain access to the property, stealing money and documents. 3 men are believed to be involved, and we have 2 sets of e-fits for 2 of them. The first is described as roughly 20 to 30 years old, stocky build with a round, podgy face and a rugged complexion. He was wearing a dark woolly hat and a grey zip-up jacket, and he spoke with a local accent. The second man is around 25 years, much smaller at around 5 foot, 5'4", slim build, short dark hair, clean shaven, with a gaunt face, pale, thin, dark eyebrows and a small mouth. Now, these burglaries are obviously very distressing to the victims, so please help catch these men if you can.
On Friday the 3rd of December, a woman was abducted in Barnt Green, Birmingham. She was returning home at about 11 p.m, and as she got out of the car, she was grabbed by 2 men and bundled into a Ford Tornado camper-style van. The men then burgled her home and drove off with her in the van. It's shown here on CCTV. It's very distinctive, with a light-coloured top and a darker coloured bottom half. We believe it's been modified and hand-painted on the rear. Do you know who owns such a vehicle and who could have been driving it that Friday night in early December? The woman was pushed out of the van onto a grassy area by Handsworth Park and managed to flag down a taxi who took her to the police station. She appears to have been specifically targeted. 0500 600 600 if you can help with any of these cases.
And now a case which has remained unsolved for, what, 15 months or so. It happened in East London in December 2003.
John Ryan was 54. He lived his life to a routine, and every afternoon he'd travel to Pick's Farm in East London to feed his horse and 6 greyhounds.
Hi, John.
He loved his work. He never missed any days from work. He was a hard-working man. He used to come up about between 8:30 and 20 to 8 every night, and he'd go past the window.
Your dad's home. Put the dinner on, love.
Go up the top of the road, turn the truck around, so it's parking the right way. And that was his same routine every night, even Saturday and Sunday, do the same.
A tall, slim man was seen by several people. Who is he?
A neighbour happened to come out of her house and was startled by the sight of John struggling with a man she'd never seen before.
Get it! Oh, my truck! Get it back! No, no! Get it! Ah!
Yeah, I've got fond memories, but everything's fond. Now he's not here. That's the things you think back of and you miss the most, because obviously he's not here to share them with you. You know you're not going to have their memories again. So what you've got a treasure. He loved his kids, he loved his wife, he loved his dogs, and most of all, he loved his granddaughter. We'll always talk about him as if he's still here to her.
Because at the end of the day, even though he's gone, I still feel him with me. And I'm going to make sure she knows who her granddad is, even though when she's 21 like me, she's going to know who her granddad is and know how much he loved her.
Well, John Ryan actually survived, but only for, what, 4 or 5 weeks. Because of the medical intervention, it then made it very difficult to establish some of the clues, which made it very tough for David Ainscough, who's now in charge of the inquiry. But let's start with what you have got to go on, and that's the description of the killer. And it's not a bad description.
It's not a bad description. We're looking for a white male in his mid-20s, about 5'7", 5'8" tall, slim build. Probably the most distinctive thing about him is that he's got possibly blonde, light brown, possibly even brown hair, which is tied in a high ponytail at the crown of his head and about 6 or 7 inches in length, the actual ponytail.
And that actor of ours is said to be a very, very good likeness. He looks slightly taller than he is. The actual killer was, what, 5'7", 5'8", you were saying?
Very similar in height to our victim, yes, and he had beige clothing on.
Now, you were telling me that a man of a similar description had actually been seen in the area several times before.
In the 2 months leading up to the actual fatal attack, a man with a similar description was seen in the area of Guildford Road, Walthamstow, on one occasion wearing a light blue Lecoq sportif top, and on another occasion with another white man wearing quite a distinctive red and black Averex baseball jacket, although I think I would describe it as more like a motorcycle type jacket.
Then if we saw in the reconstructions the bloke under the lamppost with the mobile phone, I mean, this is really an elimination from the inquiry, because he doesn't fit the description of the killer.
No, that could be somebody connected with the killer, or it could just be somebody who's innocently there who could hold vital witness information for us.
So December 2003, if anybody's watching, they think, hey, that may have been me.
That's right.
Give us a call straight away. And about John Ryan himself, I gather you found it quite difficult to find out very much about him.
I've spent quite a lot of time speaking with his family, and he appears to be a man who kept himself to himself, and his work colleagues paint a similar picture to himself. So it's been difficult to paint a picture of his lifestyle and what he actually did beyond his greyhound racing and working for Murphy's. Although it has come to light recently that he may well have been involved in some petty theft of diesel and plant machinery from his employers. Whether that's a possible motive, I've got to keep an open mind. It wasn't
a mugging. What was it? There was a struggle for the bag. It looked from the reconstruction the bag was left behind.
Initially, a good assumption would be that this was a robbery or an attempted robbery, but nothing was actually taken from John, even when he was defenceless on the ground. The bag, as far as I'm aware, held no valuables, and I would just appeal to anybody that knows who killed John Ryan to give us that information, or if they know of a motive as to why this happened, or if they could fill us in any more about his lifestyle.
John Ryan himself?
That's right, yes.
All right, David, thank you very much. The number in the studio, 0500 600 600. Remember, it's a free call here. If you've got any information leading to the arrest and conviction of John's killer incident, it's a £10,000 reward. You can call the Instant Room if you prefer in Old Deptford. That's on 0208 284 8561.
Now, the last of our dodgy dozen, all wanted for fraud. In May last year, in fact, this man posed as an account holder at a branch of Lloyd's TSB in Wembley, North London. He had a bank card that wasn't his and a passport that was forged. Tell us who he is. And this man was videoed at a branch of HSBC in Southampton. He used 3 credit cards, all of which had been stolen earlier in the day. Incidentally, he was after foreign currency, both from the bank and from branches of Thomas Cook. And this is David Matz. He defrauded an elderly lady out of thousands of pounds. His last known address was in Middlesbrough, but he also has connections in Birmingham and North Yorkshire. Matz is a plumber and handyman and speaks with a distinctive Birmingham accent. And finally, who's this? He's another one who's been trying it on with a stolen bank card and forged driving licence. In his case, he'd been visiting banks in Edinburgh, but cashiers say he isn't Scottish. His accent is probably from the Midlands. So don't let any of these people get their hands on anyone else's money, especially yours. Call 0500 600 600 if you can help.
A car like this would set you back around £56,000. Whoever drove off with 3 similar models Didn't worry about such a detail. The cars were stolen from Noble Automotors in Barwell, Leicestershire on Monday, the 24th of January. Now, one has already been recovered, a silver M12 GTO2 that was involved in a collision shortly after the theft. Police believe the two occupants of that vehicle were picked up by the driver of one of the other cars. Now, if you saw that crash, please get in touch. It happened on Hinckley Road, near the junction with Ashby Road in Barwell. The two models still outstanding are a silver M400, just like this, which was due to be delivered to a dealer. It was unregistered, and so it wouldn't have had a licence plate. And a blue M400, which had the registration M400 GTO, is the only one of its kind in the world. So these cars would be very difficult to sell on. Perhaps those stolen to order. If one's appeared suddenly in your area, give us a call, 0500 600 600, or the Instant Room in Hinckley on 0116 248 3658.
Particularly from the edge where
Well, the calls are absolutely flooding in today. We've had loads on the the Knitter robbery case. Remember the 76-year-old lady that was robbed in Croydon? Well, one of the callers has asked if we can specifically show the picture of the man that's possibly involved in the Links offence. There was one that happened just 3 days later, so we're just going to show that up there. That man was caught in a Spar shop. Could he be the same man? Hopefully he is. We've also had a caller getting loads of calls on the two CCTV assaults, the bus assault and the train assault. So lots of names, lots of addresses. It's looking really good.
Well, as Rav says, it's been very busy. I can't remember for months when it's been this busy. Just let me tell you about the West Midlands armed robber. I think his 10-year spree is probably coming to an end this evening. We've got 5 people who's given 2 names. Actually, we've got about 60 callers on this one, but 2 names in particular. In both cases, we've got police officers backing this up, and I think we've got addresses and police cars are there or going there this very moment. Lots of calls coming in. All the Instant Room numbers are on CFAX on page 621. You can see a reminder of some of tonight's cases and crime prevention advice and more at bbc.co.uk/crime.
Well, phone lines are open until midnight tonight and from 7:30 till midnight tomorrow. Next month's programme will be on Wednesday, the 13th of April.
We'll be back at 11:15 with Crimewatch Update, though if you're in Wales, you'll have to wait there till about 11:45, I think, before we see you then. If you can't stay up, do remember the crimes we feature on Crimewatch really are very, very rare, so don't have nightmares, please. Sleep well. Good night.
Good night.